I was talking about memories about my dad and the intelligence agency and what it was like. One time we found ourselves divorced. My parents got divorced, and my dad followed me down to the DC area. So of course, this brought back a lot of memories for my dad because we were near all the intelligence stuff, of course, and analysts. So one we had a really weird Christmas because we had to um, have a makeshift Christmas with this other family who had just gotten in a divorce at my church, and then this three kids from this other family whose mom had passed, and the dad just needed a break because the kids were kind of wild, so we took them in too. And then we all stayed at a house owned by the church, which they call parsonage. So we had our Easter there, and we all just came together. And so it's Christmas Day. We're all like really out of our element. We find ourselves just this weird group of people on Christmas Day, but it's all right. It was kind of needed. Like we all sort of needed each other because we were all going through a hard time. And our one friend, the lady who had been divorced, and she brought her two sons. She was really sweet and really nice. And she said, "Oh, by the way, met this guy, a friend, and I felt like God wanted me to, invite him to our Christmas. And he said he didn't have anywhere to go. And yeah, he's younger. I don't know. He kind of looks like mid-20s to me, honestly. But so we're like, okay, whatever. Just add another person. It's already weird. So this guy comes, and he's like kind of preppy dressed, whatever. And somebody good looking, 20-year-old something. And I'm just looking at him like, he doesn't fit like like he would chill with this older woman, this middle-aged, not older, but middle-aged mom. They don't really go together. I just didn't make a lot of sense to me. He would be like a more like a mother figure. She would be more like a mother figure to him. I don't know. It was very odd. So then he just comes in, sits down, and my dad and the mom, they were talking, and they're in the living room, and this guy sits down in the living room, and he just stays a bit. I don't even think he ate anything, but he sits and waits a bit. Now it's Christmas Day, okay? He doesn't do anything, and he just sits there, and he joins in some like chatty conversation, whatever. And then he looks at my dad, and he's like, all I caught was this part. I don't even know how he like came up with what alluded to this. But he said, "What do you think we should do with people who don't know how to keep their mouth shut?" Pretty obvious. I guess my dad was talking about things that he thought were okay. Maybe to this friend. But apparently it was not okay to talk about a couple of these things, or whatever he was like, whatever dad was saying. I don't know. They didn't like it, and they threatened him on Christmas Day. So my dad is not one to back down, and at that time he was just so like over it because he had just lost, his land, his money, his big house he just built. He lost my mom and just everything in this divorce. It was awful. He lost his dog. I mean, it was awful. Country song, right? But no, for real, like everything my dad had worked so hard for. I think he bought the land when he was just a teenager or like a young, maybe early 20s. Really, I mean, it was like 80 acres of land. It was just everything he worked for up until that point. So he's like, I don't care. He probably was talking about stuff, maybe, because he was just like, I don't care anymore. What else are they going to take away from me? He couldn't pay his taxes on the overly priced tax they had up where that was. It was just, one of the biggest tax bracket places in the country, I'll say. One of the top places where they overtax. And of course, honestly, it really wasn't his fault. But so anyway, fast forward, we go to the Christmas day with this weird dude, like threatening my dad, and I'm just sort of like in the doorway, kind of overhearing, because I'm just curious about this semi-good-looking 20-year-old, because I'm, like 18 at the time, and I'm like, who's that? Then he like does that, and I'm like, who the heck are you? My dad looks at him after he's like, what do you think we should do with people who talk too much, who don't know how to shut their mouth? And my dad goes, well, I think you should give him a job. That's what I think. So my dad was like, give me a job back in intelligence, pay me good. I know I'm very qualified person to do this. At this point, he knows he's overqualified after what he's gone through. So much so that part of the government, the bad side of your government, they want him gone. They want him dead. They've already tried to kill him a couple times, and it didn't work because God says who dies. And then there's the good side of the government. They would find it very suspicious if my dad went dead, especially if they're all still keeping tabs on him. But I think at this point, it's mostly like the dark side that are keeping tabs on him. Whatever he found out was enough where people would follow us. Not us, really, but my dad. And he'd know. And he would just kind of make jokes about it. He goes, oh, we got another one. Look at this guy. He's not even that good at it. And my dad would easily, pick it up. And people, we wouldn't know as kids and stuff, or even as teenagers. But my dad, and into, my 20s, whatever, 30s, people would, it got less and less over the years because more things, I think it didn't matter as much. But this couple things that Dad knew about were explosively huge information at the time, and then over time it gets less and less. People start to find out things, I guess. It's hard to say what you can't say. And of course, I have ADD, so as I've said before, 1,000 thoughts are trying to win the mouthpiece. 1,000 thoughts in my head are trying to win what comes out of my mouth. And I'm trying to filter. So it's just me staring at you, and you're like, hello, talk, say something. Sorry. That's what happens. Yeah, this guy says that. And then he just gets up and he's like, okay then. And he just leaves. He just leaves. He was only there for, I swear, it felt like 15 minutes. Isn't that weird? So yeah, that's one thing that will happen. Your dad is in intelligence at a high level or knew something too big. And survived. Usually they don't survive. That's what makes this so weird and so interesting. They never live to tell. And now my dad died a couple weeks ago. I guess that's why I'm telling. Because who cares? Who cares?